The observation deck of the Calthrine research vessel hummed with the quiet efficiency of a dozen species working in harmony. Dr. Vexa, a Quilarian xenobiologist with silver-scaled skin and 4 independently moving eyes, stood before the containment field, watching the human with growing concern. The human identified in the vessel's logs as Dr. Sarah Chun, exobiologist from Earth, sat cross-legged on the sterile floor of the quarantine chamber. Her dark hair had come loose from its tie, falling around her face as she rocked slightly, lips moving in constant motion. "She's been like this for 6 hours," Vexa's assistant, a methane-breathing Horthak named Zome, observed through his translation device. "The neural scans show elevated stress markers, but she refuses medical intervention." Vexa's primary eyes focused on the human while her secondary pair monitored the readouts. Dr. Chun had been brought aboard 3 days ago, rescued from the dying research station on Kepler 442b after a catastrophic systems failure. She'd been alone there for 8 months, studying the planet's apex predators, the rendered ones, as the humans called them. Massive, 6-limbed creatures with crystalline hides and intelligence that bordered on sentience. But that wasn't what concerned Vexa. What concerned her were the cubs. 3 of them, each no larger than a Terran house cat, huddled in the corner of Chen's quarantine chamber. They shouldn't have been there at all. When the rescue team had extracted Chen from the station, she'd been clutching a thermal container, screaming that they couldn't leave the babies behind. The rescue commander, a pragmatic Venlil, had allowed it only because Chun had become violent at the suggestion of abandoning them. Now, as Vexa watched, one of the cubs, its crystalline plates still soft and translucent, detached from its siblings and approached the muttering human. Its development was all wrong. Rendered ones were supposed to be solitary from birth, aggressive, territorial. These cubs followed Chen like imprinted waterfowl. "What is she saying?" Zilm asked. Vexa enhanced the audio feed. Chun's voice came through, barely above a whisper. "Need to calibrate the nutrient synthesizer, add more calcium for their plates. Check the UV spectrum again. They're not getting enough. I can see it in the dorsal ridges. Should be more pronounced by now." The cub chirped. A soft, crystalline sound like wind chimes. Chun's head snapped up. Her eyes, red-rimmed from lack of sleep, focused on the creature. "Hey, baby," she murmured, her voice suddenly gentle. "You hungry again?" She reached into her jacket. The rescue team had let her keep her personal effects and pulled out a nutrient bar. Breaking off a piece, she held it out. The cub approached, its 6 legs moving in the peculiar gait that its species used before developing their full mass. It ate from her hand. "Impossible," Vexa whispered. Zome's breathing apparatus hissed with what might have been agreement. "Rendered ones are obligate carnivores. They cannot process plant-based—" "She's modified it," Vexa interrupted, zooming in on the bar. "Look at the composition. She's been breaking down the station's emergency rations and reconstituting them with added proteins and minerals. She's created a synthetic analog of their natural prey, while alone, while her station was dying around her." The human had been muttering to herself, yes, but she hadn't been breaking down. She'd been problem-solving, out loud. That strange human tendency to verbalize their thought processes, even when alone. Another cub approached, adding its chirp to the first, then the third. Chun smiled, the first genuine expression Vexa had seen from her, and distributed pieces of the nutrient bar to all 3. "The behavioral modification is unprecedented," Vexa said, more to herself than to Zilm. "Rendered ones don't bond. They don't vocalize except to establish dominance." "They certainly don't." Chun began humming, a wordless melody, soft and rhythmic. The cubs settled around her, their crystalline plates catching the light as they pressed against her legs, her sides. Still chirping, but quieter now, contentedly. "She imprinted them," Zilm said, "or they imprinted on her." "I'm not certain which." Vexa's 4 eyes blinked in succession, a Quilarian gesture of profound realization. "Neither. Look at her behavioral patterns. She's not treating them as children or pets. She's treating them as research subjects that she's responsible for. This is professional obligation elevated to." She paused, searching for the word. "Obsession?" "No, dedication." The human stopped humming and looked directly at the observation window. Vexa knew Chen couldn't see through the one-way field, but those dark eyes seemed to stare straight into her. "You're going to try to take them," Chun said clearly, "for study, for documentation. Maybe to return them to Kepler 442b? She pulled the cubs closer. All three chirped in protest at being moved, then settled. "You can't. They'll die." Vexa activated the communication channel. "Dr. Chun, we have facilities." "Your facilities are designed for adult-rendered ones if you have any data at all," Chun interrupted. "These are juveniles. Their crystalline structure is still forming. They need specific mineral supplementation, UV exposure calibrated to Kepler 442b spectrum, and—" she took a shaking breath. "And they need consistency. They've bonded. Breaking that bond now would trigger a stress response that would calcify their plates prematurely. They'd die within a week." "How do you know this?" Chun laughed, a broken sound. "Because I watched it happen to the fourth one. In the first month, before I figured out what they needed," her hand stroked the nearest cub's crystalline ridge. "Before I learned to listen," Vexa's scales rippled with discomfort. "You've been alone for 8 months. The psychological impact." "I haven't been alone," Chun said firmly. The cubs chirped as if in agreement. "I've been doing my job. These three are alive because humans don't quit. We don't give up on what we're responsible for, even when it would be easier. Even when it would be safer," her jaw set. "Especially then." Vexa looked at the readings, at the impossible cubs, at the human who had kept them alive through sheer stubborn refusal to fail. "The council will want them studied," she said quietly. "Then they can study us together," Chun replied. "Because I'm not leaving them. And they're not leaving me." The cubs chirped softly, a chorus of crystalline affirmation. Vexa deactivated the communication channel and turned to Zilm. "Note in the log, Dr. Chun and her research subjects are to be kept together. For observation purposes, the council will understand," Vexa said, watching as the human resumed her muttering and the cubs settled into sleep around her. "That some bonds transcend species, and some humans transcend reason." The observation deck hummed on, but Vexa found herself wondering, in the vast darkness of space, which was more remarkable, the creatures that had learned to trust or the human who had taught them how.